Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you know the deal. People feel like they can do what they want, when they want, and nobody else matters. And in today's episode, what is more entitled than people trespassing on private property, guys, to do what they want? And OP tells the story about the time they found out a Karen family has been using their home to have parties when they're gone. Ain't that something? I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. Okay, so I live down the street from the most entitled family ever. It's a single mom with 3 kids, who are ages 7 to 12. The kids are always running around the neighborhood, doing whatever they want. They would shoot hoops on neighbors' driveways, despite being told no many times. They would use my trampoline by climbing over the back chain link fence, playing in neighbors' water fountains, all that stuff. So during the month of July, my family's getting the driveway paved. The concrete had just been poured and the crew had left. I was outside getting some gardening done. My husband was inside. So as I'm there working, the 3 kids from the entitled house come running over. They ask if they could write their names into the concrete. I told them, no you may not, and they run off. About 20 minutes later, they come back with Brienne, their mom, and I'm using her real name because who cares, I don't like that woman at all. The moment Brienne sees me, she starts yelling at me for denying a child's childhood. I wish I was kidding you. We went back and forth for a few minutes, and as she was getting nowhere, she left, taking her kids. And that's when I went inside because I had to share with my husband. When I come back out like 5 minutes later, they're putting their initials into the concrete. My husband yells at them to stop and they book it back to their house. Thankfully, the concrete was still wet, so my husband just smooths it over, but he was pissed. We stood watch the rest of the day to make sure the kids didn't come back. Well, 2 days later, I saw Brienne outside while taking my dog for a walk. It's like 8 a.m. and she's getting ready for work. She then makes a snarky comment, asking me if I'm happy for not allowing her kids to write their names on my driveway, and didn't I leave my mark when I was a kid. I told her, no, I never left my mark in wet concrete, and I especially wouldn't dare to do it on someone else's property after being told no. She just gets in her car while muttering "people" these days under her breath. Literally an hour later, her kids are in my backyard, jumping on the trampoline. And when I tell them to leave, they say, my mom said we could because you won't let us write our names in your driveway. Now I shut that down real quick, and I basically told them in the nicest way possible that they need to F off, never jump here again, and go home. Thankfully they listen and leave, but the next thing I know, stupid Brienne's back. I can see her coming my way from my front windows, knowing she's about to knock on the door and cause trouble. She came and rang the doorbell, and she was pounding on the door for a good 5 minutes, looking to talk to me, I guess. I, of course, did not answer, and she left. And for about a week after this incident, her kids were constantly around the front of my house, riding their bikes and being loud. I have a feeling the mom sent them over to annoy me. It all stopped though when my other neighbor, an old retired doctor, went to yell at their mom after the kids colored and drew on all 4 of his truck tires with sidewalk chalk. Well, doesn't that sound like a lovely neighbor to live very, very close to? And the fact that the mom encouraged that entitled behavior is infuriating, guys. Like, I cannot believe she said to her kids, go annoy your neighbor who didn't let you vandalize their driveway with your names. Go climb their back chain link fence and jump on their trampoline and tell her I gave you permission to. Absolutely head shaking, right? And listen, I wonder how Brienne would have felt if OP got some Roundup, went to her house, and wrote her name in giant letters on her grass. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just making my mark on your property. Okay, so I need to get this off my chest. I'm a capybara farmer, and recently, due to the viral trend going around these amazing creatures, my peaceful capybara farm has turned into a hotspot for self-entitled content creators who are looking for their next big viral video. These people have trespassed, they've stolen, they've subjected my capybaras to stressful, inappropriate behaviors, and I'm deeply disturbed by their lack of respect and total disregard for the well-being of my animals, not to mention the breach of my privacy and property rights. But things escalated beyond belief. Just last week, one of these trespassers, a man looking for some adrenaline-filled footage, decided it would be a great idea to wrestle one of my capybaras. Now, not only is this incredibly distressing for the animal, it's also dangerous. And surprise, surprise, the man ends up seriously injuring and losing a part of his genitals. And this man, the one who trespassed on my properties and harassed my animals, is suing me. Apparently, he thinks I'm responsible for damage to his reproductive organs that occurred while he illegally trespassed on my property, distressing my animals. A few days ago, I woke up to find my capybaras all huddled together in one corner of the farm, clearly terrified. Upon investigating, I find a person dressed in a homemade capybara costume, trying to live amongst them for, quote, a 24 hours living as a capybara challenge. Not only had they trespassed onto my property in the dead of night, but they were also equipped with various props and toys that they thought capybaras played with. They brought a beach ball, a squeak toy, a rope, and a plastic sword, for whatever reason, amongst other less tasteful things. They were actively trying to coerce my capybaras into engaging with these toys for the video, causing immense stress to the animals. When I confronted them, their response was shocking. They argued that they were doing the capybaras a favor by making them famous. They truly saw nothing wrong with their actions. I had to call the cops to have them removed from my property. The disrespect for private property, the welfare of animals, and basic human decency has been simply mind-boggling. The wild things people do for attention nowadays, right? As you probably already know. Like the entitlement of some people. And seriously, I could not help but laugh at the doing the capybaras a favor by making them famous defense that guy used. Because yes, animals really do value internet fame. I'm honestly so sorry that OP and her animals had to put up with this. And the idiot that's suing for the part of his downstairs that was lost, holy cow, I hope OP countersues. And the guy ends up losing money on top of whatever he lost downstairs. Play dumb games, win dumb prizes, they say. With that said though, there is a capybara farm that's like 9 hours away from me that I do plan on visiting this summer, guys. I'll be sure to bring a plastic sword and a bunch of squeak toys and my capybara costume. I'm sorry, the living 24 hours amongst capybaras thing is absolutely hilarious. Again, the ridiculous things that people do for views nowadays. So this happened a few years back, and I happen to remember this event, so I thought I'd share it with all you beautiful folks out there. First, let me give some background to help you understand a few things. I run a cattle operation that I took over from my now deceased father. I have a little over 100 acres, give or take, and my land and cattle are guarded by 12 Maremma guard dogs. All of my dogs are trained to patrol the limits of my pasture, and they help clean the calves right after they're born. They're also trained to guide any other people who come into the property directly to me, and they can be very protective of me, their turf, and the cattle. I've seen these dogs tear apart coyotes who got too close to the herd, but otherwise, they're gentle giants. Now that I've given all the background you need, let's get to the story. So this day, I was patrolling the fence with one of my females, who's a total kiss-ass, to make sure the fence wasn't knocked over by deer. I then hear her start to huff and bark, and I look over to where she was pointing, and I saw my two alphas were escorting a whole family towards me. There was a husband, a wife, a boy, and a girl, and they were wearing swimwear. Once they were near me, I called the dogs over to me. The father began loudly complaining that the dogs had tried to attack him and his family. I just merely raised an eyebrow and I said, "Sir, if my dogs were to attack you and your family, you would not be standing here right now. They can literally rip coyotes in half if they wanted to. My dogs are not to be messed with." Hearing me say that, you could see the blood rush from his face. He then starts asking when the manager of this nature reserve would be in, which got me confused. I tell him, this isn't a nature reserve, this is a private ranch. Why would there be a nature reserve in the middle of a bunch of corn and soybean fields, i.e. farming country? And this is when the mother pipes up and says, "Well, it looked like it might be a nature reserve, so we thought it was." I could only shake my head in disbelief at what I was hearing. The mother then goes on to explain that they came here to look for a place to swim, since the local lakeside beach was too full. She said they had found my creek and they thought it would be a great place to swim. This is when I apologized for yelling and getting upset, but I told them that they need to leave. But the dad keeps insisting that since they're there, that they were going to swim. It won't be long, maybe an hour or so. I told him no, that's not okay, as I'd have to be there to keep an eye on him, and I have things to do. And this is when he changes his tune and says I can't make him leave. How it's a free country, and he can go and do as he pleases, since he's a sovereign citizen. Now, honestly, I hate people who use the sovereign citizen excuse to trespass on property. So I look at him and say, "Did that hurt?" He asked me, "Did what just hurt?" I then said, "When all that stupid came out of your mouth just now, you're not allowed to trespass on private land. Now, I'm not going to tell you again. You need to go back to your vehicle and leave right now." At this point, the dad starts getting red in the face and he yells at me that I'm not as smart as I think I am, and how I'm not going to make a fool out of him in front of his family. And to be honest, he was doing it all on his own, and I said as much. So while this guy's ranting and raving, my dogs are starting to growl while putting themselves in front of me as they know to do. I start getting worried that this guy will set them off, and I don't want that for his sake more than anything else. Now, I try to calm the dogs down, but this is the point. The dad decides he's gonna act on his anger by making a grab for me. My heart stops for a moment as one of my dogs tackles the guy and gets on top of him, growling. I yell at the dad to not move while his family starts to panic. I manage to quiet them down and I yelled at my dog to get off. Fortunately, he listens and he comes back. I then chewed the dad out once again for trespassing, picking a fight, provoking my dogs, and almost getting himself killed, all for the sake of proving how much of a man he is. I then help him up, brush him off, and check to make sure he wasn't bitten, and I try to calm the woman and the kids down. I tell them one last time that they need to leave, please, and then shoo my dogs away and guide the family back to their car. They got back to their car, and once again, I apologized for what happened. The dad, who had actually calmed down now, apologized as well, before starting his car and driving off. I never had anything come of that scenario, and it still pisses me off how stupid and entitled that family was. The dad most of all, and how that stupidity and entitlement almost got them killed. I'm just glad that everyone was okay, and hopefully learned a lesson. I guess it goes to show how no matter what, the craziest things can happen to anyone. A few years ago, my husband and I purchased a house with a pool. Now, we're acquainted with most of our neighbors, but definitely not close friends with any of them. They all seem nice, but we just don't have much in common other than where we live. Next door to the right is a family of 6. They have twin daughters attending university, a high school-aged son, and a young elementary school-aged daughter, maybe 1st or 2nd grade, and then the parents. Now, normally, we open the pool in early May, and we leave it open until the end of October. But this year, our weather was off, and we had a very cool and very wet month of May, and then June just went straight to 100+ temperatures. I'm currently on a medication that makes it difficult for me to tolerate being in the sun and heat for an extended time. Plus, we've been helping 2 extended family members who are having health issues. So because of this, we haven't had our pool opened yet this year. Now, normally, we go to the family lake house for a week during each of the 3 major holidays. But we didn't go for Memorial Day because there was flooding around the lake this year, and because a family member was just discharged from the hospital yesterday. And July 4th being a Thursday, this year we decided to stay home this week and be available to help the family member. Now, several times in June, the little girl next door has either seen my husband or myself outside, and she's asked when we're opening the pool. We first told her maybe later, but the last time she asked, I said we're probably not gonna open it this year, and she starts crying. Now, we have never had any of the neighbors over to use our pool, so I didn't understand why she was crying over us not opening the pool. Well, I spoke with the neighbor on the left later, and apparently, our neighbors on the right have been having a small family party at our pool every 4th of July when we're gone. They've always cleaned up really well afterwards. And because we have scheduled pool maintenance and weekly yard service, occasionally things are moved around in our yard, and we never thought much about it. The neighbor on the left thought we had given the other neighbors permission to use our pool. We did give them permission to retrieve any balls or toys that end up in the yard, but we never gave them permission to use our pool, especially when we're not home. We have a special latch on the gate, and my husband did show the neighbor how to open the gate to retrieve his kids' toys. So now, my husband, who loves gadgets, is going to have several more cameras installed around the exterior of the house, covering the gate and the pool. We also had a gate latch made where we can grant remote access for the pool service and yardmen. Luckily, we have a close friend who does cameras and home automation systems. I'm annoyed that our neighbors have been using our pool without permission, but my husband's happy that I'm letting him get more gadgets around the house. Now, do we confront the neighbors and let them know that we know they've been using our pool, or just wait and see if they say anything about our new security cameras? Okay, this is wild and quite a bold move by the neighbors, right? Like, for years they've been doing this. Like, who are these people who feel they can use someone else's property without their permission for a freaking giant pool party nonetheless? Opie does have an update, guys, and here it is. Opie writes, first of all, we don't want to hurt anyone or alienate our neighbors. We just don't want people using our pool without permission, and we don't want the liability associated with this activity. A few things I feel I need to clarify though. Yes, our backyard is fully fenced in with 2 gates. One in back is double locked from the inside. The side gate on the side of the garage nearest the neighbors in question has a double latch that you have to reach over the top to find not 1 but 2 releases to open the gate. There is also an auto close that automatically closes the gate and latches it. I personally can't open the gate from the outside of the fence because I can't reach over that far to reach the 2 latches. The previous owner put this in, and it's worked very well for our yard crew and pool maintenance people. We do have some cameras, a doorbell camera and a camera over the garage area. The garage camera picks up if someone goes towards the gate from the front, but we didn't want to invade our neighbor's privacy by recording their side garage door and gate to their backyard. We even shared the camera angle with them because we don't want them to be concerned about us recording their kids coming or going. I guess we were more concerned about their privacy than they were about ours. Anyways, the update. This happened on Thursday, July 4th in the morning. I was loading a few things in my vehicle to take to my cousin who just got out of the hospital. The neighbor/husband, who had been gone for work recently, saw me, and he came over and asked if I was getting a late start going to the lake. I let him know that we were staying home because we were helping my cousin who just got out of the hospital. He then asked if we were going to be home all weekend. I said yes, one or both of us will be around all weekend. He then quickly wished me a happy 4th and went home. I went back in to grab my purse and to tell my husband about the conversation with the neighbor before I left. When I got home, our friend Mike was there. Mike does security cameras and home automation systems. Mike and my husband have a plan for multiple cameras and several gadgets, some of which involve us going ahead and having the pool opened. I agreed to all but 1 of the new cameras and almost all the gadgets. Mike also suggested talking to our homeowner's insurance agent, because we might be able to get some discounts with the security upgrades. So on Friday the 5th, Tom, our insurance guy, comes over, and Mike is back, and he has a drone to help him find the best camera positions. Really, I think he wanted to show off his gadget. So my husband, Mike, and Tom are outside, all around the house, and occasionally inside. I look outside every so often, and at different times, neighbors have come outside and down to our end of the street. So the neighbors want to know what's going on. My husband tells them that we're concerned that some or several people have used our pool without our permission while we're not home. It turns out that 2 different neighbors had witnessed some friends of the neighbor kids come over last year, and they and the neighbor twins had gone into our backyard. One neighbor even asked the girls, and they claimed that we let them come over all the time and use our pool. So at this point, husband and Tom discussed this. And Tom said that we should send a registered letter to the neighbors, rescinding our permission from entering our fenced-in backyard. Before Mike and Tom left, the neighbors on the right, the pool party neighbors, come home, both husband and wife. My husband asked to talk to them, and with Mike and Tom as witnesses, he tells them that for insurance reasons, we're no longer giving permission for them or any member of their family or guest to enter our fenced-in backyard. We'll be sending a registered letter stating this as requested by our insurance. My husband never accused them or their kids of using our pool, but he said we had reason to believe that in the past, our pool had been used without permission. He did say that we had reason to believe that their older children might be friends with someone who had been in our pool. My husband also told them that we're changing the gate to have an automated lock, and cameras will be installed around the pool area. He's also assured them that we avoid the cameras pointing at their windows or backyard. My husband indicated that we're taking these measures to hopefully lower the homeowner's insurance rates. My husband said that they exchanged a few looks between them, but they said they understood and appreciated the heads up. So hopefully this saga's over, and if there's any other updates, I will try and post them. You know what, with all the entitled stories I read where Karens flip out when caught, I'm actually surprised the neighbor husband read the situation correctly and took it so well. As he should, right? I'm just glad the two understood and are moving on with this, and I love how smoothly it went. See, you can solve problems without making enemies. My husband and I were together 10 years and married for 7 before he unexpectedly died last year. Before and throughout our marriage, his parents never really liked me. Despite how they felt about me, I was not only always cordial to them, but I allowed them use of my 2 lake houses whenever they wanted. The first lake house was owned by my parents since before my brother and I were born. The second lake house was purchased by my brother and I when the original owner decided to sell. The houses are right next to each other and perfect for large family gatherings. During our time together, my husband's family celebrated holidays and extended weekends at the houses, and this was never an issue because I was at almost all of those getaways. Well, recently, my husband's youngest brother got engaged, and I knew his family would be throwing him and his fiancée a party like they did for all of their kids. I also expected an invitation because I was incredibly friendly with the youngest brother, having gone to many sporting events and concerts with him. But no one ever mentioned anything about a party. When I finally asked the parents, they told me that they weren't doing anything big. Fast forward to last Monday, and I got a text from one neighbor at the lake, asking if I would be joining the family for the party. Come to find out, the whole family was at the lake house with guests, and they had been there that entire weekend to celebrate the engagement. Now at first, I wasn't bothered by not being there, but then I get another text from the neighbor, telling me that my mother-in-law drunkenly admitted that I wasn't invited on purpose, since I have nothing to do with their family now. So I drove over an hour to town with the paperwork listing my brother and I as owners, and showed the sheriff the text message stating that I wasn't invited, and told them that I wanted everyone off the properties. The sheriff and some deputies escorted me to the houses to shut the party down. The sheriff entered the party to shut it down, telling the guests that the owner wants everyone gone. Mom and dad-in-law, being drunk out of their minds, start verbally attacking the sheriff, and they threw a fit, and that's when the sheriff arrested them. The youngest brother is mad at me, but his fiancée is on my side. The brothers and sisters are also split as to whether or not I was wrong, but there seems to be a common consensus that I could have handled things differently, so am I the a-hole? Oh man, OP is for sure not the a-hole in this situation, and that was the right way to handle it in my opinion. Like, it was bad enough that OP wasn't invited, but not invited to a party on their own property that those people used without even asking? Yeah, they totally deserve to get trespassed 1000%. Especially when, in mother-in-law's own words, she said, OP has nothing to do with the family anymore since their husband died. So that means they're strangers now, right? All the more reason to get off of OP's land. The neighbor's a total MVP for letting OP know though. But guys, let me know your thoughts on this. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/EntitledPeople episode, another one, where OP's insane neighbor tries to jail her for cleaning her own house. Ain't that something? Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.